Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Meet Kevin Show. Today we get to go deep for a full 30 minutes with Jamie from Hut 8, and we've got to go lightning speed on all the questions that we've got on mining crypto. I'm so excited to have this opportunity because, folks, crypto's been exploding over the last 4 to 5 months, and we have so many questions. First things first, welcome in Jamie, the CEO of Hut 8, a cryptocurrency miner. How could you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about yourself, the company, and let's get right into it.
Okay, fantastic. So I'm Jaime Leverton. I took over the helm here at Hut 8 Mining on the 1st of December. I'm not from the crypto space, so I kind of joined just as things really started to take off. So I haven't had a lot of sleep in the last few months for sure, but it's an incredible opportunity. It's a great industry. I've been in technology in Canada for the last 20 years as a mainstreamer, so it's great to be here. Thank you for having me.
You know what? You should take credit for this Bitcoin rally. As soon as you got in, it took off. I mean, talk about perfect timing.
I'll tell you, I do think my in-laws think that Bitcoin is related to my new job, the price of Bitcoin, but it's very cute.
Oh, that's awesome. I love it. All right, so let's get right into it. I want to know the first question that we've got, and this is one that has really been popularized by Kevin O'Leary lately. Can we talk about clean coins versus blood coins, China coins, and sourcing coins? Is that actually going to matter? Does anybody actually care?
So look, that it's a difficult question. I certainly think that we need more mining in North America. The dominant geography for crypto mining today is China, but we've seen a boom of growth in the mining space in North America. About a month ago, we announced that we moved our hash rate to North American mining pools. And we're seeing a lot of growth in North American mining pools and in hash rate coming to North America, which we think is critically important. And I think it's just the beginning of growth in mining in North America. And I think if the question is, do we need more geodiversity in mining? Yes. Do we want to see more coming to North America? Yes. If the question is, specifically to the coin, the individual coin that you're holding in your wallet, that's a complicated question. I would liken it to fiat. Do you know where your $20 bill has been?
Don't want to know.
Does that affect the value of the $20 bill? So I think this is just the beginning of a bigger conversation, and really that's kind of my perspective on it. I certainly think that Kevin wanting us to have more mining in North America is the right thing. We're very, very much on board with that.
Got it. Now, you mentioned mining pools coming to North America. Well, where can you break down sort of your geography now? Where, because you're a Canadian company, where are your operations and kind of what's the nitty gritty? What's the day-to-day like of your company? What makes you different?
Well, the day-to-day of our company in a pandemic is quite something. Like everything's virtual. I had an all-hands meeting with my staff today, so everybody was virtual, and the technical repair shop was virtual, and our operations teams from our different sites. And obviously it would be so nice to be in person, but we're certainly making it work. I'm based in Toronto, as well as a number of our leadership team are here in Toronto. And then we have a few folks in Calgary, and our base of operations is in Alberta. So we're entirely Canadian based. We've got 2 sites in Alberta. Medicine Hat has 67 megawatts actively in production. Wow. And Drumheller is our other site. It has 42 megawatts in production. And then we've just announced that we're building another site in Alberta as well. So we're really, really happy with our Canadian roots and our partnership with Alberta and the support we get from the province.
Nice. Now, how much does it make sense for you to, let's say, operate off solar or wind, or does that not make much sense given where you might be?
Well, Alberta's done a lot of work in investing in renewables. The grid is predominantly natural gas with oil or with solar and wind. And we're really lucky. Our Medicine Hat site, you can actually see wind turbines in the background, which nice. They're very beautiful. We've got some great aerials for anyone interested in that. So one of the challenges with 100% renewables, of course, is you don't have that consistency of load. And consistency of load is obviously critically important for Bitcoin mining or any high performance compute. The power is the critical component to how you generate revenue or you generate crypto. So you do need to have a stable power source. But I certainly think increasing the mix of renewables, they're doing some really exciting things around capture of wasted energy. We've recently announced a partnership with Validus Power, and they've got incredible technology to capture flare gas, field gas, and convert it into energy to be used for Bitcoin production. So I think that's really exciting. I'm part of the Crypto Climate Accord, and we're really working as an industry to kind of change some of the narrative associated with Bitcoin's energy use. And I can tell you, as an industry, we are very focused on our energy consumption, our carbon footprint, and it's certainly a narrative that you'll continue to see more and more of from us and from the industry in general.
So if you were going to, let's say, go to California and start a crypto mine, and the utility said, hey, look, we're doing our best to do green energy, to do solar and that, but in order to provide you all the power, we've got to frack, we got to do natural gas or whatever. That's just sort of par for the course right now, at least until we get the right renewables. Is that right?
Well, I think there's always going to be a mix. Renewables require another source to maintain a steady load. Like ultimately, during peak energy consumption, you have to be able to deliver the load to support the grid. So I think it's always going to be a mix that we see. I think it's unlikely, or it's well into the distant future where renewables are the dominant source of power, but certainly having them more in the mix and having a focus on how you reduce your carbon footprint. And there's a lot of different ways to do that. I think that should really be an area of focus, and really working with industry and working with government to find solutions that really make sense and ultimately deliver to the value proposition that we need as an industry. And I think what's great about Bitcoin mining is we're a stable off-taker. So we use a lot of power. We're very consistent, but many of us, ourselves included, work with the local municipality and on ancillary services, on giving the power to the grid when the grid needs the power. So we're able to give that excess power when they need it, but create a stable load or revenue stream when it's not needed for those peaking purposes.
Oh, that's actually interesting. I mean, yeah, you're not kicking on a bunch of generators all of a sudden because you feel like it. In fact, you're probably, quite frankly, the utility's favorite customer. I mean, you're just a stable customer. They could build around you.
Absolutely. And as long as we have that partnership where when they need our power, we have a mechanism to give it back to them, it's a great partnership. And that's often what you see with miners. We're a great off-taker, we're a great natural partner, and we work together with the power provider.
So what's your take when, just the other day, for example, CNBC went off on an analyst from ARK Invest. You've seen, does a lot of work on crypto over at ARK Invest with Kathy Woods. And CNBC and the staff, they were going off on him about how crypto's dirty. It uses too much energy. It uses more energy than Argentina and this many cars and that. Well, how would you respond to this? Because that seems to be the very today argument, and it doesn't seem to talk about the future at all. What's your take?
I really struggle with it. One of the stats that I love to quote is Christmas lights use the equivalent of the power of a small country, but no one complains about Christmas lights power usage. My background is in the data center space, so at cloud and managed services and high performance compute. No one ever talks about their power usage. People don't talk about the power usage of Apple and Google and Facebook's data centers all around the world. That's not something that they answer to. Even more importantly, the traditional banking system, nobody talks about their power usage. I think one of the reasons it comes to Bitcoin is because we're so directly tied to power. We're always on the hunt for low-cost power, and we're transparent. The Bitcoin network creates transparency of our energy usage, and therefore it makes us an easy target. But there are way bigger consumers of energy as from an industry perspective that don't have to answer to it. I think one of the last stats I saw was the entire Bitcoin network uses 0.03% of global power. China wastes more power than we use, more hydropower in a year than the Bitcoin network. So it's a bit of a red herring from my perspective, and it is frustrating that this is the narrative that's now being thrown at us. I think during the last cycle, the narrative was around Bitcoin being used for criminal enterprise. That's now been so broadly debunked because, of course, fiat currency is a much better or more actively used currency for criminal activity because you can pay in cash. And in the case of Bitcoin, everything's transparent. Everything's traced on the network. It's one of the beauties of the system. So I think we as an industry are working really hard, and we just have to do the job to redirect this narrative and make sure that people understand that we're taking it seriously. It's something that we actively work towards. The crypto industry is by its very nature an industry that is full of optimism and positivity, and we truly believe that we offer a path for more independence and decentralization, and we want to just help facilitate transfers of wealth and community building. That's what attracted many of us to this industry in the first place. So I think you need to trust that we will continue to do good and push the boundaries of good that this industry can create. And certainly with energy, we have an opportunity for an incredible amount of upside. And another point on the energy, from an energy perspective, is Bitcoin miners, and our partnership with Validus is perfect for this, because they do behind the fence power generation. The technology that they use is mobile, meaning it can go into assets that would otherwise be stranded. So picture one day, let's call it a waterfall that previously couldn't be used for hydroelectric because it was too far away from a grid to get connected. You can now roll up behind the fence generation and start and put Bitcoin miners. We do mining in container-based systems, and you can have those that are also mobile. So you can kind of roll up a Bitcoin mining operation to potential energy assets or renewable sources that previously couldn't be monetized in any way.
So a 40-foot container, you could just roll it up and go, let's plug it in, basically.
Well, you have to get the power or whatever this stranded asset is, but essentially, yes.
Wow. Yeah.
Over time, the technology will allow for productive monetization of otherwise wasted clean energy that can bring economic value to parts of the world that could never have experienced that before.
Yeah, and there seems to be such a connection with, the energy doesn't do anything, but really we're verifying transactions, which is so wonderful. And I want to ask you about some differences on your thoughts between staking and proof of work. But first, I want to ask you, of what you mine, do you hold what you mine or do you sell it? How does that work?
Well, we are proud to be the original gangsters of hodling. So we have been hodling since before Michael Saylor made it famous, although we do thank him for bringing the attention to the strategy. So we have been mining and selling Bitcoin to pay operating expenses and then holding the rest on balance sheet since inception. And that continues to be really an important part of our strategy, of course. We are very proud to have the largest amount of self-mined Bitcoin on our balance sheet of any publicly traded company in the world, with 3,233 Bitcoin on balance sheet the last time we reported the number. So it is obviously we're long on Bitcoin. We really, really, really believe in the space, and we're lucky that we've had that belief as long as we have and continue to do so.
Is this, that's over $168 million more in Canadian dollars of Bitcoin. Why? I mean, why not dump that and get more mining operations going?
There's always a balance, of course. So we
Yes.
have 109 megawatts in total actively in production. We have 100 megawatts we use for self-mining, 9 megawatts we use for our hosting business. And the beautiful thing about having Bitcoin on your balance sheet, I'll just give you 2 little anecdotes. We were able to use the Bitcoin on our balance sheet to get to collateralize, to act as collateral for a loan that helped save us during the last bear market. It allowed us not to sell down the Bitcoin on our balance sheet. We were able to hold it to raise capital in a market that otherwise wasn't favorable to Bitcoin mining. And then as the bull market came, we were able to pay off that loan in full, and we had maintained our balance. We've been able to get advantage of the appreciation of Bitcoin, but it was there to help cushion the down market. And now in January, we announced the opening of a yield account with Genesis. So we actually put 1,000 Bitcoin into a yield account with Genesis. We get paid an interest rate, a rate of return on that on a monthly basis. So now we are now able to actually use our Bitcoin balance as a source of fiat income while we continue to appreciate it on the balance sheet.
I mean, that's awesome. I mean, yeah, you're really creating with this liquid cash balance you have, you're creating a yield. I want to ask you about that. There's a lot about this with lending on the DeFi tokens, on the Bitcoin, the stable coins. Part of me worries a little bit. In your scenario, I think it's wonderful, but I want to ask your opinion on the overall industry. Isn't it possible that we could see this sort of rehypothecation of lending these coins over and over again? And ultimately, we don't know how many times these coins have been lent out. Is that a potential concern? And could that lead to some potential over leverage in the crypto industry?
Do you know how many times your fiat has been lent out by the traditional banking system?
I mean, fair counterpoint. I mean that you can guarantee it happens there. Yeah.
I mean, it's the nature of the industry itself.
I suppose. I guess the question that some folks have is with the fiat, folks make the argument that, well, there's more regulation and maybe it's more supervised. But then again, you have the Archegos criminy that popped up the other month, right? Not too long ago. So it's kind of like, what supervision, right? But that's an argument. Mm-hmm.
What supervision on the global printing of monetary stimulus? There are no controls or supervision really over fiat currency. How do you have confidence that the value of your dollar will maintain its dollar or its value? The reality of Bitcoin and why it's such a magical system is you can't print more. The amount of Bitcoin is predetermined, and you can't create more supply faster. The only thing that adjusts is the level of difficulty based on the participation in the network. So it cannot be manipulated. The supply of Bitcoin can't be manipulated. It is not controlled. It's completely decentralized. Obviously, it trades 24 hours a day, 7 days a week in every corner of the world. I mean, it is the most beautiful mechanism, and it can't be debased.
I love that. Do you think there's a risk of central bank digital currencies taking some of the value away from like a cryptocurrency, or like a Bitcoin, or will Bitcoin become that digital gold that nothing else will really hold a candle to? I
don't think anything can hold. We have never seen a harder store of value in the history of man or of money. I think that as long as a currency is still centralized and controlled by an entity, it doesn't matter if it's digital or paper. I mean, in a pandemic, none of us are using cash anyway. So you're kind of just repackaging fiat currency, but all the problems of the fiat system and the centralized nature of it and the risk of inflation and devaluation of your purchasing power doesn't change just because it's digital now.
Good point. You still got Jerome Powell cranking the wheel somewhere.
Right now, every government in the world.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, across really the globe, democratic countries have printed somewhere in excess of 25 to 30% of the money that exists in circulation now. It's incredible. So I want to ask you, which I mean also speaks to the point of what you had mentioned with criminal activity. You know, Janet Yellen mentioned this not that long ago. She's I think 2 months ago. Janet Yellen's like, we're worried about illicit activity. Like, I feel like it's you can track every transaction so much more transparently, and it's just a matter of time before the IRS goes, "Give me your wallet ID," and they can see how beautifully tracking it is.
Yeah, I mean, you can't do that with cash.
No, but
That has been debunked. The fact that she kind of brought that back again just doesn't make any sense.
And so recently, it really makes me feel like she kind of walked in the treasury on day one, like, crypto's bad, right? What are we all doing?
It's
So
so bad.
I
Is
gotta
it
ask you,
2017?
yeah, I gotta ask you, Big Digital, they do crypto security and that. Do you ever work with them? They're I think they're in your neck of the woods as well.
They're in our neck of the woods, and I do know the team. Great group of folks. We don't directly work with them, but we collaborate where we can. I'll say that that's one of the other things that's really special about this industry. We collaborate and partner as much as we can. It's very, very friendly, very welcoming. Me being new to the space in December, people from all over the ecosystem reached out to introduce themselves and help, and it's a really, really special place. It's not like anything I've ever seen before.
That's incredible. How do you choose your devices? So, for example, it looks like you might be using the NVIDIA GPUs. What about like the ASUS chips? Is that just a thing of the past, or?
So all of our self-mining right now is done with ASICs, three different generations. Yeah. So our fleet is a mix of Bitfury equipment and equipment from MicroBT.
Okay.
And then we just made the announcement that we've purchased mining cards from NVIDIA. And so actually that it's a really exciting development for us, because it's the first time that we'll enter into the GPU mining world, and we'll actually be mining the Ethereum network. But through a partnership with Luxor, which is a North American mining pool, we can mine Ethereum, but be paid in Bitcoin or settle in Bitcoin directly at the pool level.
Wow. So, I mean, is it something where AMD and NVIDIA, are they just innovating so much to where, hey, now the GPUs make so much more sense? And as a part two to that, is there a risk that you spend so much money on these cards and chips that they're just dated in 6 months and you got to upgrade them again?
I think 6 months is definitely not a risk for anything in the tech stack that's coming out right now. The supply constraints that we are seeing across the industry are really making access to new equipment incredibly difficult. It's going to slow down the cycle of obsolescence in tech for many industries, frankly.
Wow.
So historically, and certainly as ASICs first became the dominant form of compute for Bitcoin mining, Moore's law applied in the race from 16 nanometer down to 7 nanometer, which is where we are now. But going down from 7 is certainly much more difficult, and we expect the lifespan of ASICs to be longer as a result of that. And that's what we've seen today. So our oldest generation of equipment is still incredibly productive, very robust, and because it is fully depreciated, incredibly profitable, of course.
Yeah.
And we see it continuing to be useful for much longer than was ever expected. And I think the newest equipment that's coming in will see the same thing from, again, as long as these supply shortages continue, that risk is just absolutely not there. You're lucky to get equipment in 6 months, let alone your equipment to go obsolete in 6 months.
Wow. Okay. Very fair. Yeah, I heard this is just an anecdote, but I heard an anecdote from somebody that they bought a GPU 18 months ago, and they can sell it today used for more than what they paid 18 months ago. And I feel like 5 years ago, that would be unheard of. You'd be like, who wants an 18-month-old chip? That's got to be 10x worse, you know?
So the system's choked.
Yeah, I'm curious. How do you cool all of this? Do you just open the window in the winter and allow it? Like, are there some special advantages of being in Canada?
Oh my gosh, absolutely. So we're in Alberta, which is fantastic from a climate perspective. Very, very dry, very flat. We use container-based systems. So it's like modular data centers. Each one is about 1.1 megawatts of power. We point them directly into the wind. It's very windy. Winters are long and harsh. So we can take advantage of free air cooling. It just cools right through the containers. So yeah, it's incredible. Canada is an incredible environment for Bitcoin mining.
Yeah, I mean, just thinking about it, containers are metal, and metal dissipates heat extremely quickly. I mean, that's why every heat sink is metal, unless you're using water cooling. But you're just in a metal container, and I suppose the more of them you have, the more surface area of metal you have, maybe the more cooling you have, huh? That's incredible. So
open both sides. Yeah, you should. There's a tour, I think, on YouTube or on our website of our operations, and you can kind of see the containers and wander around. But it's quite incredible.
Now, in the future, can I buy a Hut 8 container and just put it in my backyard and plug it in?
No, definitely not. We don't want to sell any of our gear. It's too profitable and too important. And certainly, I'm not sure exactly where you're located, but my guess is when you plug that thing in, you'd die of shock when you saw your first hydro bill.
Yeah, no kidding. For the Americans, hydro is the electricity bill over here. Now, is there a point or a risk of like the utilities raising utility rates as there's more of a push towards green? I'm concerned that we see less things like what happened with the Keystone Pipeline, or maybe we see, less fracking, less natural gas exploration. Is there a risk that as usage goes up, renewables don't keep up, the cost of energy production goes up, and all of a sudden mining becomes a whole lot less profitable?
I certainly don't see that as a risk on the horizon for us. Alberta's an incredibly energy-rich province. The Keystone Pipeline being canceled, unfortunately, of course, for the province. I think you'd be hard-pressed to run out of energy sources in Alberta or in Canada, frankly.
Got it. Okay, so then, do you see regulatory risks for crypto? Do you see the central banks cracking down like so many are concerned about, or is this going to be something where the people want it, the people are going to get it, and the people who are in early are going to be handsomely rewarded for that?
It's a decentralized peer-to-peer system. You could apply regulatory to on-ramps or off-ramps or exchanges, but Bitcoin itself, you can't regulate a network that is globally distributed and peer-to-peer based and there's no point of centralization. I don't see how that would apply as a risk to the network as a whole. It's part of the beauty of its creation.
That's a good point. I guess that's probably exactly why when Turkey banned Bitcoin, as the headline is, they didn't actually ban Bitcoin. They banned the use of Bitcoin. I see. Okay. So what's next for Hut 8? Are you going to, why are you not building, you said you're building like, I think it was another less than 10 megawatts or something. Or no, I don't think you mentioned how many more megawatts you're adding. You've got 109 megawatts.
Right.
Why aren't you doubling, tripling this? I'm thinking if you're fully depreciated, what's stopping you from taking 30% of your Bitcoin, selling it, taking that, buying, doubling, tripling your capacity and depreciating all over again?
Well, we did just announce the expansion of our power capacity, 70 megawatts and expandable beyond that. So more information will come on that expansion over time, of course. But we're excited to be adding that much power capacity to our fleet. Again, hardware is incredibly difficult to come by, so there is a balance. You don't want to pay 6 times the price for something now because of the supply constraints. Like, you kind of have to work a balance, and we work really hard to deploy capital consistently over time, strategically. Like the NVIDIA announcement we made recently, we purchased more equipment from MicroBT in January. So we're very tactical, we're very strategic in how we deploy capital to make sure we're creating value, and we're able to be confident that there's the return needed to justify it.
That's incredible. Yeah, I mean, even the fact that, I mean, you're able to expand about, 64% in this climate, in this restrictive chip environment is really incredible. I know you've got to run. Any final thoughts you have? Anything you really want the audience to know about Hut 8? This is so insightful already, the first 30 minutes that we had, and hopefully we'll get to talk again sometime in the future.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you having me. I appreciate anybody who tuned in to listen, and I'd love to come back anytime.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I can't wait to explore these containers. I want to see these containers one day in the future. I think that'd be neat.
When the pandemic opens, well, come on up.
Yeah, I can't wait for this to be over. And the chip shortage, so we can finally stop worrying about inflation. Very last question, if I can ask you, 10 seconds. Inflation, if inflation doesn't happen, is there a risk that Bitcoin goes down or cryptos fall?
How can inflation not happen? You just reminded everybody 25% of the money supply has come into production over the last year. I mean, in what world is that a real risk?
I love it. Thank you so much. What a phenomenal ending. I appreciate you. Stand by for 1 second if you can. Everybody else, thank you so much for watching. If you've liked it, consider sharing, subscribing. We'll see you in the next.